Hey, it's Dan. I'm bringing you a bonus episode of the Hooniverse podcast. For 2025, the Kia Sorento has gained a new trim line, the X Pro. It marries the style of the X line with some additional substance. For $1,000 extra on a top Sorento Prestige model, you can get more off-pavement capability and some extra towing capacity. Just last week, Kia showed the Sorento X Pro to New England automotive journalists. And that's when I got a chance to talk with Mark Savino, Senior Product Line Manager for the Sorento, about how the company decides exactly how to grow a product line that's already well-stocked with choices. As a chatty smoke alarm somewhere kept asking for a battery, and against the background hum of old-school fluorescent light ballasts, we talked for 40 minutes about a range of topics. Here's our conversation. Okay, so why don't you introduce yourself to our audience? You're Mark Savino, Sorento Product Line Manager for Kia Motors North America. So thank you for joining the Hooniverse podcast. Anything you want to say to kind of introduce what that is, I guess, to our audience?
Yeah. You've already done a great introduction as the Sorento Product Manager. That's right. I've been working at Kia North America for the past 6 years. And what do we do? We're the ones that specify a lot of the vehicle, all the specs that you see, including the different trim levels, the type of equipment on each level, the pricing, the positioning, who we're going to sell the car to. So basically, when you go to the configurator online and you see what's available on this particular car in the Sorento, and you love it, it's because of me. If you hate it, because it's me too. I'm the guy.
So in terms of that, how are you finding out what customers want or predicting what they'll want next? Because I think if you ask customers, you'll get a different answer than if you actually really nail it for them.
That's the money question. That is the question. What do they want, right? And especially because we're planning cars, 3, 4, 5 years out, right? So we have to know what they want in the future. And not only that, but what the market's going to be like, and there's so many variables, right? So, but to answer your question, we talk to them. We talk to customers today, and we find out what they, the things that they love about their cars, things that they want to improve about their cars, things that they look at us, they look at a competitor. So we gather a lot of that information. And how do we talk about that? We do things like focus groups. We sit down, we ask them, just like we're talking here, questions. Right. We ask them questions. We have things called clinics where we have maybe have a prototype model and they evaluate it. What does it look like styling-wise, interior, functionality, HMI, the interior, the usability. So, we have, we do lots of, charting their information. And then based on those responses, then we start creating, it's like, okay, they like this, they didn't like this. But then, as you also said, there's a little element of, there's their feedback, but we also, as people in the industry, we are giving we have our opinions and, our recommendations. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's hard, I think, for them to imagine what's possible 5 years down the road.
That's right. It is. We had one recently where we were having them look at silhouettes of the exterior design, right? And it's kind of like, okay, it's good. We want to hear your feedback, but at the end of the day, our design guys, they're the ones that know what to do, and they know how to how much to push the boundaries and what will be popular in the future.
Yeah, well, and your design team in particular within the industry has a really good feel.
Thank you
for that.
Yeah.
And that must be something that, do they approach that with confidence where you'll put something into a clinic, and obviously usually the clinics don't have the badges or anything, so it's always interesting to see what people think it is.
Yeah. And they're always guessing. They're like, I think that's a blah blah blah. It's like, can you tell us? We can't tell you now. At the end, don't worry. We'll let you know. We'll divulge it all.
But they must approach that really confidently, even if they get bad feedback, to be able to do they take that then to the rest of the company and be like, well, people responded uncertainly to this, but that's because we're pushing them. Trust us. it's going to be
Oh, believe
the
me,
business.
that has happened.
Yeah.
That has happened. Well, because in our current design language is really pushing the boundaries, right? So when you see the car today, like, wow, that looks really cool and modern. But imagine that we were talking about that 3, 4, 5 years ago, and that's where it is. Sometimes that's actually the target. The target is to make people a little bit uncomfortable. Because then that, as the years progress, as the car is in development, then, by the time the car is in the market, this could be considered new and progressive, but still in line with what's new and progressive today.
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, as with any art, right? It's still art, and part of the goal is to make people a little bit off center.
Right. Exactly. And I can say the current design, we've been getting lots of feedback from our designers, and I don't want to even take credit because it's their work, but that how we really have been pushing the boundaries lately, and it's something that not every car company is doing and having faith in, and we do, because we think that design is really important at Kia.
Yeah, well, it really, I think too, the interesting thing looking at is you could take a very templated approach, like the classic BMW, same sausage, different size links,
right?
Where they're getting away from it even, but they all were very similar.
Yes.
Yes. That's not exactly what Kia is doing. You have a lot of variety within your line. You've got the Sorento, but you've also got something like the Seltos, and they don't look like one's not a small version of the other.
Yeah. It's not the same sausage whatsoever. That's right. The one thing I do like about it is even though they have their own looks, you mentioned Seltos, you mentioned Sorento, which is our kind of compact standard 3-row SUV, and then we have the Telluride on top of that, which is a larger 3-row SUV. That they all have their different looks, but there's still something unifying. That if you kind of glance at it in traffic or something, you're like, oh yeah, that's a Kia. There's a couple of things. One thing that we've been doing lately is we've been having a lot of fun with our headlamp design. Like the LED DRL look, and they're not all the same either, but they're somehow related. You see that we call it the star map. Kind of looks like a constellation.
I see, yeah.
Right, and if we have like kind of an image, I could show you. And they're all a little bit different, but somehow they're also unite, and I think that's part of how Kia is doing it. Or maybe a better example is our Tiger Nose, right? We've been doing that for over a decade,
a long time,
right? And it's evolved. It started out as just the grille, and now it's part of the bumper design. It's wider and bigger than ever. Or sometimes it's almost like, oh, I can see where it is. I can kind of see how this part is the top and this part is the bottom. It's not as immediate as the original. But that said, all cars have it. Right, so kind of a different interpretation. So I think it's cool that we are a mainstream brand that kind of has these cues that might be more common on a luxury brand, or a more premium brand cares more about some design cohesiveness, and which we do, but in this kind of interpretation.
Yeah, and I think that's what I think of when I think of Kia design is that it's not necessarily a premium to execute, but premium brands typically put that kind of attention in. Yeah, that's exactly.
Right. That's right.
They place the premium on having that identity. So by making that a priority, you've now sort of elevated the look of and your design team is fantastic. So
we're really happy. We're really happy. Over the years, we've had some fantastic designers.
And you brought up the Sorento, and we're here to talk about the Sorento X Pro. So as a planner, how was the case made for this? Because it's a new model or a new trim
version,
level. Yeah. So how did you go about making the case for that?
Well, that's a great question. So we have something called the X line, and we've been selling the X line. In fact, the little trivia in the U.S., Sorento was the first Kia that started with the X line, the X line concept. Right, but here's another trivia. The X-Line was even prior to the U.S. It was kind of a more rugged version of, I think, a car, a Picanto, something sold in Europe.
Okay.
Right, and it was kind of a little bit more rugged looking. And we said, well, that is a great concept for the United States, right? How we Americans love our rough and tumble SUVs.
Yep.
We're very much off-roading, very nomadic by nature, right? And that's a perfect match with what customers love. So we applied that. We said this is kind of a cool look. Once again, kind of connecting. We saw the car many years ago in the design studio, and we said, what, this car would look really good if we added a little bit more. We raised it a little bit more. We gave it some more like robust features. We added like a bridge type roof rack, different kind of grille that's a little bit more rugged. All those types of design cues, right? And we said, if we think it looks good, we clinicked it.
Mm-hmm.
People loved it.
Mm-hmm.
We painted it green. They said, I love the green look. And then when the car started selling, we were really happily surprised that it was a big hit. We couldn't build enough of them.
And this is the X-Line trim.
X-Line. I'm talking X-Line right now.
Yeah.
Right? So we couldn't build enough of them. And then feedback, you're asking about that earlier. Customers like, we want that, but we want something more. There is more. You can push it more than just the looks of it. And that's how the X Pro was born. We said, what if we took the looks of the X line and we added some more functional features to the formula and gave customers even more, ability, the more capability in where the car can go. Yeah. Again, because we know Americans love it. That's you see these cars that are ready to conquer, Rubicon trails and Moab and all that. And
right, at the mall.
At the mall, yes. Exactly.
But I think that's, I wonder if that's one of the things that in your kind of prediction and your kind of looking at the overall market, mm-hmm. That rugged theme, is that something that just like seems to be the temperature of the consumer? Like everybody's got one, right? Like Ford has Timberline, I think, and Nissan mm-hmm. has Rock Creek, and there's the TRD Pro over with Toyota. So sure. Everybody kind of has the sort of ruggedized version
right.
of it, and that has to be in response to some kind of, I wonder if it's just like
overall trend.
Yeah. Or if it's like people like just the move to an SUV mm-hmm. or a crossover is maybe an earlier extension of that, right? Like,
yes.
I don't always need it, but I could.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that goes, once again, how do we know or how do we understand what the customer wants? I mean, that's a really deep point that you're bringing up, which is, as Americans, we want to be prepared for anything, right? We want to be, even if it's not going to happen, even if there's one time of the year that we do it, we use it like this, like even there's one time of the year that my grandparents visit, we need the third row, yep. Right?
Yeah.
There's, you never, I mean, I don't, maybe it's a little bit too soon to mention this, but, all the storms that we've been having, down south,
yeah.
Right? You see videos of people driving, when the water is, halfway up the wheel or something like that. So we as Americans, I think, we're people that could do. It doesn't matter. We're not deterred by a Category 3 hurricane. Yeah. We do. And we settled this country, right? This was an, almost empty country that we developed. We moved westward, right? And we got into wagons and went to Oregon or whatever.
Yeah. If you didn't die of dysentery on the way.
Exactly. Exactly. No scurvy either. So I think the point is meaning that I think that's in our spirit, and an SUV is the vehicle that totally matches that spirit of Americans, that we can do no matter what. And the fact that they're becoming even more and more in that direction, I think is, it's kind of boiling down that whole concept.
Yeah. So, and you have, it's this interesting place where you did offer with the X Pro, there's mm-hmm. more capability to match the look. So with the X line, right, you raise the ride height, which helps. That's a little bit more capability there.
Right.
But now with X Pro, you've got, I think, a locking center differential. You've got more towing capacity. You
got it. We have the wheel and tire package. So
right.
So the BF Goodrich, they're road terrain tires. So that they're capable off-road, but they're also capable, at least slightly more comfortable on-road. Right.
Well, and that's the thing is like, is that a secret luxury play? Because I found this with my own experiences with SUVs. If you can manage the noise from a more off-road tire, that higher aspect actually improves your ride, and you pick the sweet spot where it doesn't hurt the handling that much, because most people aren't clipping apexes and
we have few Nürburgrings,
right?
Although our drive down here felt a little bit like that.
Well, it does. Yeah,
Jamaica way.
Yeah. Just the speeds are a little lower.
Right. Exactly.
But that extra compliance, like it actually makes it feel more luxurious as long as you can keep it quiet.
You got it. That's right. Because we say you can upgrade to our 17-inch wheels, and people are like 17-inch wheels.
I like that because they're cheaper. Like I have a Grand Cherokee on 20s, and I do not like the ride. Like when I put the winter tires on that are 17s,
it's all of a sudden that's exactly. So you have the 17-inch wheel, but then you have the same overall aspect ratio,
right?
Or overall ratio, and then the aspect ratio of the sidewall is now thicker, so then you do have that compliant ride. So that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So it sounds like you're downgrading the wheel size, because they are smaller, but you're actually upgrading your ride,
and you're saving money. It's a cheaper tire.
That's right. That's right.
So now it's been out for a while, and I've saw some of the reviews. Do you ever kind of get a little bit annoyed where, because it has this kind of rugged look to it, you've got people saying, well, it's capable of XYZ, but it's not quite ready for like full off-road. I think that's not the point, fellas. Like,
right, exactly. We just mentioned how this is the look, this is what people want, and they do want to be prepared. But yes, is this car really going to Moab? No. If it really did, would you take your $47,000 fully loaded SUV there? Probably not. No.
Although I mean,
I guess there's every kind of person in this world. So,
it depends on
be my guest. Be my guest. But that's the point. Also, is that we want to give customers more capability, but at the same time, how far are you going to go? The more you go, the higher the price tag, and really the more unlikely.
Right.
The more unlikely it is.
So it sounds like you, in the product planning process, you're just like, well, what are the things that most people are going to use? Well, if they venture slightly off road,
right.
if they're on a fire service trail, or they have a campsite that they go to, inclement
it's like
weather,
to get you to the trail.
Right. So you've got better tires, which make a huge difference.
Yep.
And you get the locking center diff.
That's right.
Those are two things that I look for. It's like that's probably the
I feel like
spot,
tires is like gets you a lot of the way there.
Yeah.
Right. Compared to the standard 20-inch wheels, they're all seasons. Standard all seasons. So having the road terrains, get you a lot of the way there. Having the additional ride height, which is on the X line as well.
Yeah.
But that also helps. Right, and then having the different modes, the snow mode,
and torque vectoring. That's important too, right? So you don't get high centered as much.
Exactly. We had these cars out in Colorado a couple months ago, in the winter, like in the mountains, and they were loving it. They were loving driving on the off road, on some of the non-paved roads. Did we have it on crawling over rocks? No.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that's your point. It's like, it's a family vehicle, or you're going to, most people aren't going to take their family rocking. And some of our audience, they might, but for the most part, we're all rather prudent.
Right. Right. And it's actually funny when we, driving up the mountains, there's our ski resorts. We saw all sorts of vehicles, doing that. Like there were, cars that had, retrofitted wheel and tire. We saw Rivians, we saw EVs going up there, so we had, plenty of Sorentos were going. I saw plenty of Sorento X lines going up there, to our X Pro drive, and so people have all levels of what they're looking for, and we think that this is kind of the next level for what in the Sorento world.
Yeah, no, I used to do winter in rear wheel drive. Cars.
Put some sandbags in the trunk.
4 snow tires is the key. You go
that's right.
Anywhere.
That's right. That's it. Tires is really it. That's really it.
But getting back to it's a 3-row crossover, but it's on a pretty short wheelbase, and you've got the Telluride. Mm-hmm. So this is a package that's offered. It's a good deal. It's $1,000 on top of
the X line. So the X line Prestige trim.
Yeah, the Prestige trim
is like about 46 and change, and this one is just exactly 1,000 higher, and that gets you all of the X Pro, which is a lot of the wheel and tire that we talked about. Mm-hmm.
So that overlaps with the Telluride. What was the thinking there? Because the 3-row, like, because it's on that short wheelbase, like, are you concerned about that customer experience, or is it understood that kind of like, yes, it's a 3-row, but that's, again, it's one of those, if you need to.
You got it.
It's not
That's
like if you need the 3-row every day, buy the Telluride.
That's right. So Telluride's our full-time 3-row. Right. Our Sorento's our part-time 3-row. Right. We talk about it like that. The other thing, we also you're asking about customers and who buys our car. Did you know that more than half of Sorento customers don't have kids?
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. And it's actually across the board. It's not a Sorento situation or issue. It's a America. We as Americans are having fewer and fewer kids.
Well, they're expensive.
They are expensive. That's right. Especially
so you can
these
have a car,
days.
You can have a child. Either way.
That's right. Yeah. Which one do you? What's going to be your baby, right? And a lot of people who are focusing on their career, education, they delaying having kids, and if they do, they have a smaller family. So so the Sorento customers that do have kids, it's 1 or 2. So that's the majority. So that's what we're talking about. So a lot of times we talk to customers, they say, you know what? We have the 3rd row for the one time the in-laws visit.
Right.
And
it's the in-laws, right? So you don't want them to be too comfortable.
We don't want to encourage more than once a year.
Right. And you want it reminds me of that episode of Everybody Loves Raymond where they're kind of like diagramming out like the radius that you should live from your relatives because otherwise they become overnight guests.
Yeah, the pop-ins. Yeah. We don't want that. So we have the 3rd row just in case. And then a lot of times, I'll fold that seat down. It's super easy to do anyway. And, I have a really big 2-row vehicle. And so a lot of people say, well, then make it a 2-row vehicle. So, well, no, people want the 3-row. They want it just in case. The other thing that I love about Sorento, especially this version, this iteration, is that it allows us to have the captain's chairs, 2nd row captains.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Right. So we don't want a 4-seater, but but it becomes a 4-seater when the 3rd row is folded, and we know that customers love that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's either a super premium for their friends in the back, or if they do have the kids. There's a nice space in between, so the kids are not fighting with each other or getting into whatever they're doing. So even families actually prefer the captains. So it kind of gives that perfect package, right? You can have the captains, you can have the 3rd row pulled up. You can make it a 6-seater if you really need to. And then the other thing I was noticing around here is, in certain parts of the country, space is tight.
Yeah.
Right. And having that slightly smaller size vehicle. It's not for all. I know in different parts of the country, Telluride just fine. But, here in a compact city like Boston, it's great. Easy to park, easy to maneuver, easy to, almost crash, but not quite maneuvering around.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And there's not a ton of direct competitors, right? Like there's maybe
there's none.
I'm trying to think like the Outlander, maybe.
Which was that?
The Mitsubishi.
Yes, so that one is.
But that's maybe even tighter. Yeah.
It's definitely. I mean, that's like probably more like sportage size vehicle.
Yeah.
But they do stuff a 3rd row, I think.
Yeah.
That one, I don't know if it's optional or not. So that one does exist. A lot of the cars that were that smaller segment had 3rd rows. I don't know if a RAV or
I don't think they
something
do.
like that used to. But I think that they kind of got away from that because who wants that size of a car? So we're kind of this in between, right? So we're not quite the sportage size, we're not quite the Telluride size, so we're kind of in the middle. A lot of people say, that's the size of what a mid-size 3-row used to be.
Right, it's like it's Goldilocks size. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of people do say it's just right size for how we use our cars in the U.S.
And are they're all 3-row, right? Every Sorento is
every single one, 100% 3-row.
So that right there, it's like it's not an optional feature. So that's something that you get as a consumer. It doesn't cost you extra, and by making them all like that, you guys you don't have variations in production, so it's actually efficient to build.
We love efficiency.
Yeah. So how are you going to determine that the X Pro is a success? I'm sure you already know whether it's a success or not. But what are you looking at to determine how
we're looking at how quickly it's being sold, the price it's being sold at, the overall mix on with Sorento. So some of those things. The other thing is that part of the success with a car is that hopefully it will sell other Sorentos, right? So if an X Pro is something that looks really cool, but it's not exactly for you, we have so many other Sorentos to choose from. So, that's the car that, we're using in all of our beauty shots and a lot of our advertising. And you say, yeah, this is cool. I don't quite need to be going, this level of off-road, but I still need a 3-row, very comfortable and capable family SUV for a good price. Check out, the other one. We have lots of X-Line options. We even have a hybrid and a plug-in hybrid option on Sorento. So we have, we call it Sorento family because there's just so many to choose from.
So you have places to go to kind of bring some of these features down. Like, if you don't want to buy the Prestige trim, but you might want to tow 4,500 pounds.
Yeah.
You guys have
we have some options.
You have some options to kind of.
That's right.
I mean,
although the X Pro does have the 4,500 as its one of its unique selling points.
Right.
But we do have very capable towing vehicles in the the turbo, the 2.5 turbo, 311 pound-foot of torque.
Yeah, which just doesn't hurt.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about Kia a little bit overall. I've just got a couple of points.
Sure.
So you've worked for Honda, Toyota, VW. So that's a pretty wide.
You've been doing some LinkedIn.
I did a little homework. Yeah.
Good.
I creeped on LinkedIn a little bit. But no, that's really interesting because Kia, I think, learned from those companies, and of course, because the auto industry is not that big, you poached from those companies. But what sets your experience at Kia apart from those other companies without getting yourself in trouble?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think, let's see, I don't want to get too much trouble. No, but the thing that I love about Kia is that, we are a company that moves fast, which is very different from some of the other companies you mentioned.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're a company where, if there's something that you believe in and you can show why it's great, you'll get people to support you. Right, so there's a level of autonomy that we all have here at this company where we can make some decisions. The X-Line in general was something that we came up with from product planning for our team, and a lot of people resonated with a lot of people throughout the company. Our marketing, our our executive leadership, and that's something that we're able to get through rather than think about it, maybe not, and then the trend disappears.
That sounds like much more like a typical automaker.
Yes. The slow moving bar.
Right. Let's over perfect that to death so we completely miss the boat.
Yeah. Exactly.
And your background was in human factors.
My gosh.
So
you did your homework?
I
studied just up the street here.
Right, at Tufts. My dog. Speaking of Tufts, my dog goes to
Tufts?
Honorary. It's not
degree?
here. They have a big veterinary school.
Oh, true.
But it's out in Grafton, that's sort of a tenuous link to Tufts.
All right, we'll take the link. We like it.
But because of your background in human factors, I thought it would be interesting to see what your take is on touchscreens.
Oh, wow. That's great. Yeah, James and I were talking about it earlier. He's in leads our PR. And that, it's knowing human factors is really a cool, almost a full circle because we talk with our designers and they're the ones that do a lot of our high level, how is the human going to interact with the vehicle, right? So, we had lots of cool ideas and future ideas. But touchscreens in general, I'm actually a fan of touchscreens, versus a, like a kind of remote control kind of.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right. So like if you think about like, some of those like MMI type things, I think a little bit harder to use that versus touch. If you're talking about touchscreens as the only way, maybe, is that kind of your question?
Well, I think the idea of how they're an evolutionary technology.
Right.
Like part of the reason why they're in a car is because it allows you to put more functions and features in for, you've always got an eye on the bottom line.
Right.
But it also allows, benefits like easy updatability.
Absolutely. Right.
So it's all really in the implementation, isn't it? It's about how well you do it. I think we've seen touchscreens that are good and touchscreens that are bad. And are you guys learning? No, that definitely doesn't belong in the touchscreen. That needs to be hard buttons versus.
We have that conversation all the time.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yes, yeah, and we, so me as a human factors experience, I I really think that in the car environment, it cannot be only a touchscreen.
Yeah.
I think that there's certain things that you need to operate quickly on the fly and looking at a touchscreen while you're driving on the arbor way.
Super distracting, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is, you really need to be able, and I think of things like the radio volume knob.
Right.
I think of something like changing the temperature a degree or the fan speed one notch above or below. Stuff like that. It's interesting. Certain brands we know some that only do touchscreen,
Mm-hmm.
but then a seat control is a hard button, right?
Yeah.
So what if you need to operate your seat really quickly for whatever reason? That's not touch.
No, I will tell you, every time I get in a Mercedes, because they have the seat stuff on the door,
Right on the door,
I start fumbling around, like, where the hell is it?
Right. Exactly.
Because they do their thing, and if you only drove Mercedes and you drive it for long enough,
then you would know.
Fine, you're used to it. Mm-hmm. And I think part of the idea too is that everybody now is saying, well, just set your presets. Link it to your phone, and the car will just know, and it's gonna just okay, that's fine, but I don't want my car to be
right always. Or sometimes I might want a slightly different seat back angle today,
right?
Because where I'm driving and what I'm doing. Yeah, absolutely. So having those types of things that you just need to operate quickly, and it shouldn't. This is one of those like if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of things, right? Like we know we for how many decades do we know we just turned the volume down with the volume knob?
But that's not novel. I think that might be part of it. Is like, right, we're chasing novelty, and so look at all the things we can do with the screen.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, did you do? I always call it the does it suck test. Like, did you actually try it? And
right.
Does it suck?
Right.
So I guess that's.
I was like, can your grandmother do it?
Yeah. So, is there anything coming that you're excited about that you can talk about, or at least tease that? Kind of with that in mind, that we can expect touchscreens to either be improving or just like mind-blowing or great, or is it just kind of like a continual we'll push the rock up the hill kind of thing?
I think there's plenty of good things about touchscreens, right? You mentioned them. They're configurable. So one thing that the current Sorento is all over the air update, able, compatible, whatever the word is. And that touchscreen can do that, right? Hard button cannot do that, obviously. The resolution, one of the great things, as a Korean company, that a lot of Korean brands have some amazing OLED technology, right?
Yeah.
So, that's something that we've seen already and probably will continue to evolve. So you have some really crystal clear resolution, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful graphics.
Yeah. OLEDs. Like just a few years ago when they started to come in, that was actually really impressive because they're not backlit.
Right.
And so you have so much less light pollution in your cabin.
That's right.
At night, it's fantastic.
Right. And easier on the eyes, which is another human factors issue, right?
Yeah. They have great color saturation and all like it's a good tech. I like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So having some of that, one of the things I love is also our reconfigurable screens. So the meter cluster. So not the screen, the center display, but the
IP.
Yeah. So and that one, it's great to be able to change the look, change the feel, add some functionality. Like some cars, not us, have like the map in that.
Well, you guys have the blind spot camera.
We do.
That pops up. So that's a killer feature.
That's one thing and so you need to have that screen.
Yeah.
That reconfigurable 12.3 TFT screen to have the feed camera that goes into the. So that's a great point. So having that level of configurability means you have that the digital screen is there.
Yeah.
So my perfect car is all of those screens, but then just a few areas of critical things that we've talked about. An HVAC control, a volume knob, a seat control, having that as hard buttons so you can quickly get to it.
Yep.
I think that to me is the ideal future look and human factors.
Yeah. Well, because that's I just taught one of my kids to drive, and it was the same thing. It's like I need you to practice because you're not going to have time to look and to register. You're just going to react.
Right.
So this stuff needs to be muscle memory.
Yes.
And it's very much the same thing with all of the controls. I can't tell you how many times when the rotary shifters first came out.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, I'm not going to put it in reverse on the highway. That's not the volume. Like,
yes. We don't want to do that.
and it won't let you, but it's one of those things where you might pop it into neutral.
You just worry that, No, I totally know, the muscle memory, like, because, all of our cars, standard backup camera, obviously.
Yeah.
I look at the screen, then I'm driving, my car, which is old, that doesn't have it, and I'm like, looking behind me, then I'm looking forward.
Yeah, you miss it, yeah.
And I'm like, what am I looking at? There is no backup camera display. I have to actually look.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's a potential revenue stream, recurring revenue stream, right? You can make downloads and packages with the screens.
Hey, when you're talking about stuff that's coming, there's that kind of stuff. Which is cool because there's a lot of customization that you could do there. We were joking one day about we have a backup chime for some of our EVs because they're so quiet, and we're like, well, if the regulation is it has to just be a certain decibel level. Can we have the Star Wars theme?
Right, exactly. I mean, you just have to license it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think that's a great idea, and I think that's the industry is gonna do a lot of those things. So there's fun to be had.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of fun. That's right. Right.
All right. Well, we can wrap up. So I wanted to thank you for your time. We'll go check out the vehicle now.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I think it's fall 2024 as we record. Anything you wanted to let our Hooniverse audience know, what they can expect to see next from Kia? It doesn't have to be the Sorento or anything, but anything you're excited about that you'd like to kind of have them pay attention to.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. It was really fun chatting about Sorento.
We could do this for a while, but I don't want to I don't want you to miss dinner.
Yeah, that's true. We need to go eat. The thing is with Kia, the other great thing is that you're asking, Kia versus other manufacturers. There's always something new.
Yeah.
We always have something to talk about because the company is so aggressive in our product plan. So we do have stuff coming out. I think we're just launching or just about to launch an all new K4. A vehicle a nameplate that's all new to the brand. Logically we have a K5, so you can imagine.
Right, you can figure out what that's going to be.
Exactly. So and that one looks really cool. I think we showed what I think I might want to try for my personal vehicle after the Sorento is the hatchback version of that one.
Okay.
Yep. So
all right,
that
we'll
looks
keep an
pretty
eye out
cool.
for that.
Yeah. So check that one out. I think it's going to be a fun car, 1.6 turbo. But yes, and Sorento, we are still in the process of launching the all new we call it the product enhancement. And as I mentioned before, we have the entry level, we have the turbo, 311 pound-feet of torque. We have the hybrid, we have the plug-in hybrid that they're just making to the dealers. So there's a Sorento for everyone. So check those out as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of range it covers. So.
Yes.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, appreciate it.
As always, this show is your show. Let us hear from you. Let us know what we're doing right, what you'd like to hear more of, and we'll catch you on the next one.